Hi, Bill here from Mountain Craft Guitars and Moonshadow Mandolins. I appreciate your stopping by and checking out our video today. And I wanted to tell you about my latest project that we're working on, which is going to be this Epiphone MM50E mandolin. Now this is a good mandolin. Epiphone has sold a lot of them. They're readily available on the internet, new and used. For its price and what it is, it's one of my favorites out there. The problem is it's a good mandolin. It's not a great mandolin. The good news is that it has a lot of potential. It uses solid woods throughout, a nice Sitka spruce top, curly maple back, sides, and fretboard, or neck, sorry. I very much like these mandolins, but I like them better when I rework them a little bit. Let me tell you a little bit about what I'm going to do to this mandolin to make it better, or as we call it here at Mountain Craft, to overclock it. I'm going to first and foremost revoice it. There's way too much wood on the top of this, as there's a bit too much on the back as well. That's a result of being mass produced in a factory where they can't take the time, effort, and energy to profile these plates properly. The good news is in my shop with scrapers and planes and such, I can get these to original specs where we want them to be. This will greatly enhance this instrument. Currently the tap tone of the top is wrong. It's not loud enough. We can bring out a lot more potential just by reprofiling the front. I'm going to change out this fretboard and put in a compound radius fretboard, which I personally prefer and many of my customers prefer for playability. I'll also fret it with Evo Gold oversized frets, again a personal preference. I'm going to change out the nut. This has a plastic nut, and since I'm putting in a radius fingerboard anyway, I've got to change the nut, and I will change it to a tusk nut. Changing out the bridge, it will be either ebony or deer antler, depending on what I find as I start setting it up in the final. I'm going to put it on a cast tailpiece, much better sustain overall. Again, personal preference, but it will make for a better instrument when it's done. I will put on new tuning machines, upgraded and in gold hardware to match the rest of the mandolin. I'm going to refinish it with one of my sunburst finishes. The blonde is nice, but it's kind of plain Jane. Again, this comes standard with a Shadow Nano Mag pickup, which in my opinion is one of the best on the market. The final mandolin will use this pickup system as well, because I want to market it as an electric mandolin. Again, this is a very good mandolin for what it is, but it can be a great mandolin with a little bit of work. So I encourage you to watch the rest of the video. We're going to have an evaluation with Peter Danzig from the Otter Creek Band, who he'll put in his 2 bits and let us know what he thinks, as well as a few of the pictures in the process. And again, check back and we'll see how this works out. Thank you so much. Decided that we'd take a field trip with the mandolin, so we took it to the home of Peter Danzig. Now, Peter's half of the Otter Creek duo and a championship mandolin player, and a great person to do the evaluation of this particular instrument. So these are Peter's thoughts. Are there any things you've noticed about the instrument so far?
Well, I mean, so far it's a pretty solid instrument. I would be happy for a student to show up at the door with this one. And, a little quiet, I'm noticing. Has an okay chop, but the tone on the notes is a little, I don't know, flat, you might even say. There's just not the punch that you expect
Right.
when you hit one of those notes. So,
Well, we've evaluated the top. It's actually, its tap tone is a little bit incorrect. We're going to try to repair that. Try to get it a little closer to where it's supposed to be.
visually very appealing, a little rough around some of the edges on the finer points, but that's nothing a fine craftsman such as yourself can't turn around in a jiffy.
Well, we sure hope so.
There is a little fuzziness to this. You can hear that, especially when I'm bouncing back and forth across the D and the A. Especially, listen to that. That interval right there. I don't think that's fret buzz or anything. It's a tone issue. It's the top. It's just not quite. The notes are spread a little too broad in terms of their focus. And so when I'm playing that interval, they just sound a little fuzzy. It's a little bit slow to respond. Yeah, I can't play up to full speed on this right now. I'd have to really work. And that's what I always tell people, too. Get yourself a good instrument. They're so much easier to learn to play. So, Bill, once you're done with this, it'll be worthy of a student.
Hopefully.
Worthy of a professional is actually what you're aiming for, and it will be. I just always laugh because you play a fine instrument and everything goes so much easier, and then you're starting everybody who's trying to learn out on the hardest to play instruments, but. Well, there's a happy little mandolin hopping around in there, and you're gonna give it a shave, and it's gonna come out.
Well, after Peter's evaluation, we took the mandolin back to the shop here at Mountain Craft and undertook the painstaking work of stripping and revoicing and reassembling this mandolin. Revoicing required removing quite a bit of wood from both the top and the back. We went ahead and put it on a new fingerboard, radiused it, put in Evo Gold frets and gold hardware throughout. Indeed, this was a full makeover, or as we like to call it, overclocking. And I hope you'll agree that the result was definitely worth doing. As you can see, we've got the mandolin back from the shop. We've done quite a bit of work to this particular instrument. As we talked about earlier, we have thinned down the top significantly. Likewise, we've thinned the back, taken quite a bit of wood off of both of the plates. And we now have a much livelier top and back, much better tap tone, all around a much better sounding instrument. We also refinished it, that's kind of obvious. We have a purple burst on the back and neck, and the sunset burst on the top. We also have a hand rubbed tongue oil finish on it, which I find plays in a lot more quickly than the traditional lacquer finishes, and on this type of an instrument is perfect for that. We've replaced the tailpiece with a cast solid tailpiece, an ebony bridge with a deer antler saddle to give a little bit more brightness. We've gone ahead and put on a radiused ebony fingerboard with Evo Gold oversized frets. Very good, really increases the speed of this neck. We've put nice gold tuners on it. We upgraded the jack plate for the electronics. It was just a simple loose jack. We put a Les Paul type jack plate on it. In general, we've paid attention to all of the details, and I think that we really got a great sounding little instrument here, significantly upgraded. But I don't want you to take my word for it. We're going to take another field trip, take this over to Peter Danzig's house, have him play a few tunes, see what he thinks, and hopefully he'll like it as well.
So just quick review here. We've got this is antler, you said, right? This,
yeah.
Right here, and look at this beautiful tailpiece that's there. I'm fond of the coloring here. You know, it's unusual, but nicely done. Well, it plays just fine, so I'm thinking I could hop up. It's not one of those where I had an experience once where someone handed me their mandolin and said, "Here, sit in." I was like, "I can't make this thing make it. Are you sure this is working?" So there would be utterly no problem sitting in and playing whatever I felt like playing on here. It's musically. I mean, I'm going to be able to get the notes out that I want on this. So. Back might be a little thick too.
I'm gonna thin that down too.
Yeah, I'm just thinking. I mean, it doesn't have a huge job, but it might be a tad thick. Yeah, it's got a nice little punch to it in there in the mid register too. So. I like how the mandolin feels. So, I mean, it sounds funny, but I'm also paying attention to how it vibrates in my hands. And you can kind of feel these lower notes a little bit, which is kind of fun. You know, they get the whole body humming. You took some wood off the back too, you said?
Quite a bit, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So that's why before it was, you know, you didn't feel anything when you played this because it was just a little too chunky to vibrate anything. We were lucky we could get sound out of it, I think, you know. I think that's the lack of bounce that I'm feeling, right?
Yeah.
You just can't sound the note fast enough. It can't
heavy.
drive the instrument quite fast enough.
It's heavy.
Because... that's what I would say for bluegrass. Right now, thumbs down. That was the other problem with playing fast before, is that you couldn't get the notes to ring fast enough. So big improvement there, I'm thinking, in terms of that happening, and aesthetically. I'm just liking the aesthetics of the instrument a lot more. It's very unique and has kind of a fun feel to it. And gosh, I'm just going to hold that up. Look at that thing. That is looking, I mean, the gold is a really nice touch on there. The tuners are smooth as silk. So you hear that tone too when I really hit it. There's nowhere for this slightly thick soundboard to go. It just says, I can't produce any more sound, so all you're going to get is a little bit of muddiness. I'll play it a little lighter. There's not the sustain that I want on some of those notes either. So yeah, and then let's see how the non-pitched part of the chop is actually pretty nice, but where I should be hearing like some little ghost pitches, kind of not happening. Well, okay, so we've got a little more, we've got a nice kind of crisp tone here. I'm thinking the chop on here is, yeah, I'm thinking the chop has got a little more bounce to it than it did. I'm liking that. The top end is sparkling nicely. The thing that I'm noticing most of all is what I'm remembering is the mandolin just felt terribly sluggish to me when we played it last time, and it's got a lot more bounce. The whole thing has a lot more bounce to it. You took some wood off here, didn't you? Yeah, I'm thinking it's thinner, it's easier to drive. So before, you know, you'd push the gas on. Oh, you can't see my feet. You'd push the gas on this mandolin, and it wouldn't go. And now it's up and going. Let's try a little something. Maybe let's try this. Yeah, I think I can play quite a bit faster. You radiused the fingerboard too, didn't you?
Yes.
That's a nice change, because I remember feeling like my fingers were getting a little stuck in the strings last time. I'm picky about radiused fingerboards. I never notice them when they're there, and I just notice terribly when they're not. I'm thinking it's a pretty solid instrument here, Bill. I wish you had two of these from the beginning. I should go back and watch that video. It is significantly improved. I would sit and happily play it for quite a while. In fact, you don't know this, folks out there, but before Bill turned the camera on, I've been playing for a half hour here, just having a good time with it. Yeah, it has so much more dynamic range. You know, I think that's one of the most important things on an instrument, because even if your instrument sounds good, if there's no dynamic range, if you can't whisper and shout, you haven't got an instrument that can go the whole range. And so this one has a nice range here. Well, I think you've taken it from an instrument that a student could play to an instrument that a musician could play. That is very nice.